from the Council for the National Interest. We're going first to Gaza, we hope.
Yes, I hope you do get
Since it is really a few minutes before midnight, do you think that Hamas has some kind of plan of action, and do you have any sense that they might do something that's cooperative or useful in this late hour?
Now, I think the important thing for Hamas to do, as far as we're concerned, is first of all to accept the Egyptian document for national reconciliation and restoration of national unity. That is absolutely important, because this begins the process of lifting of the siege and the removal of the ending of the rift. This is very important. I think Hamas has to put the national interests of the Palestinian people in Gaza and elsewhere above its factional interests. It's very important, because so long as Hamas is refusing this reconciliation, as if refusing to have elections, it means that it's holding Gaza separate and away from the rest of Palestine. It's very important that they accept that document and that they accept elections, because in any situation of crisis, generally what do? You go back to the people so that they can have their say, so that you can have elections, and then you will abide by the results of the elections, and hopefully the international community will not decide who's kosher and who's not once we have the results of this election. But if you're talking about Hamas's political agenda, I'm telling you it's become much more flexible and open, because Hamas is interested in survival, recognition, and legitimacy. And its political agenda is extremely flexible. Of course, it has a lot to do with what the Muslim Brotherhood will tell it outside, or the equation with Iran or with Syria and so on, because of its ties and its dependencies outside Palestine. But the people inside know that they're losing support because they have been unable to deliver what they promised to their people, and that they delivered to Israel a ceasefire for free, actually. What we need to do is be able to work together to restore Hamas to a pluralistic democracy where they can be part of the national political system as a constructive part, and where they can express their disagreement peacefully. This is what we need to do with Hamas. And I believe the lifting of the siege will help in many ways. And of course, the restoration of a national system rather than a factional system will help. My problem with Hamas continues to be not its political agenda, but its social and cultural agenda. As a woman, as a human rights activist, I do not approve of the imposition of anything, including dress codes, or what books you can read, or what songs, if any, you can listen to, or if you're allowed to dance or not. I think nobody owns the soul of Palestine or the hearts and minds of the Palestinian people. We should have our basic rights and freedoms should be guaranteed. And as women, again, we have the right to be equal. Nobody can tell me I'm not equal. So this is the system that bothers me with Hamas, and this is where I would challenge it. Not whether it's going to deliver to Israel, because it has already delivered, and it will. And it will become even more flexible, because it really wants recognition, legitimacy, and the continuity of its regime in Gaza. Now, it has to go back to the fold politically, as I said, elections, the reconciliation document, and then we have to be able to move ahead with Hamas as part of this pluralistic system.
Afra of Atlantic Television.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure actually meeting you and hearing what you have to say. Netanyahu has said daily that he will not stop the demolish of the homes in the Palestine. What do you? Can you give me an idea? How do you think the Palestinian or the Palestinian Authority could stop him when he's still saying that we are not going to stop?
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. We have to hold him accountable. We have to take him to court. We have to get the international community to intervene. Look, we started the peace process years ago, and we were told the only way to stop the settlements is to negotiate. And we've been negotiating ad nauseum, and we didn't stop the settlements. So now we're saying no. No more negotiations for their own sake. You stop the settlements, we'll talk. But it's the antithesis of peace. When you steal more land, you build more settlements, and then you say we want peace. What kind of peace? So that's the thing. Now, the house demolitions, the ethnic cleansing of Jerusalem is proceeding. In 2008, they confiscated over 5,000 Palestinian IDs from Jerusalem. And now this year they've added to it not just ID confiscations, but the systematic demolition of homes and the settler takeover of Palestinian homes. They might discover that in the 19th century a Jew lived in this house, therefore now it belongs to Israel. And so they will come and they will evict the people forcibly. And Sheikh Jarrah is what's happening there, and Silwan. 88 homes are going to be demolished in Silwan. So if they're using that logic, then we should use that logic ourselves as Palestinians. Fine. You want to do that? Then all the houses and all the property that belonged to the Palestinians before 40 should be restored to the Palestinians. That gives us 78% of West Jerusalem and 70% of all of Israel-Palestine, because it all belonged to us. Now, that logic works both ways. So they'd better stop, because it's very dangerous. If they continue with these house demolitions and confiscations, then we'll use the same legal logic and say we need to restore all our property, because we all have land deeds and we own homes and church property. Of course, the church trust land and the Islamic Waqf land, these form the majority of West Jerusalem as well. So that's the logic. Now, the issue of demolitions also has to do with lack of permits. Now, you may own your own land as your personal property, but they won't give you a permit to build on it. And you know, Palestinians love to build homes. They don't like to rent. It's a sign of your stability. It's a sign. And you build a home not just for yourself. The way your grandparents built a home for their children and grandchildren. When we build a home, we build it for... That's why we have huge homes that are mostly empty now because of the brain drain and our children being outside. But still, they refuse to allow you to build. And then if you build on your own land without an Israeli permit, they demolish it. Now they tell you if we demolish it ourselves, it's very costly, because they give you the bill for the demolition of your own home. So they're telling people, you demolish your own house, it's cheaper, because we're going to demolish it and you have to pay for it. And then there are homes that are very old, and they need to be, of course, Jerusalem is thousands of years old, more than 2,000 years old, as Netanyahu said 2,000, yes. So there are homes that are in bad need of repair. If you repair them without an Israeli permit, they will demolish them. If you don't repair them, they come and evict you and tell you this house is unsafe. So in Jerusalem, it's a real catch-22. It's a systematic, really ethnic cleansing. They get furious when I use that term, and I use it all the time. Because what they're doing in East Jerusalem is not just implanting and transplanting settlers and so on in Palestinian homes and in and among in Ras Al Amud and Sheikh Jarrah and so on, and besieging. It is the systematic destruction of Palestinian presence, culture, reality, ongoing history. The identity of Jerusalem is being confiscated. And when they decided that the old city walls and that the Masjid Bilal bin Rabah of Bethlehem and that the Ibrahimi Mosque of Hebron are all part of the Israeli cultural heritage, this was an outright and blatant identity theft. I said they're not only stealing tabbouleh and hummus and falafel, now they're stealing our mosques and cultural sites. And it's incredible. This is identity theft. This is exactly what Ilan Pappé meant when he talked about the displacement-replacement paradigm in his book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine.